The great hall of the alien station was silent. Cold metal walls curved high above, filled with strange glowing symbols. Dozens of alien warriors stood in a circle, watching with their bright eyes. At the center stood a human soldier, tall and calm, his black armor scratched from battles he had survived. His name was Daniel, and he had come to this place not as a guest, but as a survivor of war. From the shadows, the alien leader stepped forward. His skin was gray like stone, and his armor was covered with gold. He smiled in a way that was sharp, cruel, and full of pride. "Human," he said in a deep voice, "you have fought bravely. For that, you will receive a gift." The aliens around the circle laughed. Their laughter was not friendly. 'Twas mocking, dark, as if they were waiting to see something painful. Daniel stood still, his face calm, though his eyes searched the hall carefully. He knew this was not a gift. It was a trap. Then the leader raised his hand, and the crowd moved aside. From behind them came a young girl, pushed forward by two guards. She was not human. Her skin was green-gold, glowing faintly like sunlight on leaves. Her long white hair fell down her back, and her eyes shone with an unnatural blue light. She wore dark straps of cloth, more like chains than clothing. The guards shoved her to the ground at Daniel's feet. She did not cry. She did not fight. Her head was bowed low, her glowing eyes fixed on the cold floor. The alien leader raised his voice. "This is my gift, a slave. She will serve you. She will obey you. She is yours." The hall echoed with cruel laughter. The aliens expected Daniel to smile, to take the girl, to accept their twisted culture. They wanted to see a human fall to their ways, to prove that kindness was only weakness. Daniel looked down at the girl. She was young, maybe only a few years older than a child. Her thin arms carried marks of chains, scars of punishment. But her face, though afraid, held something more, something alive in that moment. Daniel remembered Earth. He remembered the fields of green, the faces of his people, and the voices of those who had fallen in the war. He thought of freedom, of the right to live without chains. Slowly, Daniel knelt down. His armored hand reached toward the girl. She flinched, expecting a blow. The aliens laughed louder, waiting for violence. But instead, his hand touched the chain on her wrist. With one strong pull, he broke it. The hall fell silent. Daniel's voice was calm, but strong. "She is not a gift. She is not a slave. She is free." The aliens hissed in anger. Some shouted. The leader narrowed his glowing eyes. "Do you refuse? My gift, human." Daniel stood, pulling the girl gently to her feet. She looked at him with wide, glowing eyes, confused, afraid to believe what had just happened. "I refuse your chains," Daniel said firmly. His voice echoed in the hall. "Humans do not take slaves. We free them." The silence grew heavier. Every alien in the hall stared at him. The leader's cruel smile vanished, replaced with cold rage. His voice thundered. "Your mercy is weakness. You will regret this." But Daniel did not move. He stood tall, one hand still holding the girl's trembling hand. She looked at him as if seeing light for the first time in her life. Someone had touched her without cruelty. For the first time, someone had looked at her and not seen property, but a person. The aliens around them whispered, their laughter gone. Something new had entered their hall, something they did not understand, human kindness. And in that moment, a story began. A story that would change the fate of the girl, the human, and perhaps the galaxy itself. The alien hall was still heavy with silence when Daniel led the girl out. The eyes of the warriors burned into his back, but none of them moved. They were shocked, confused, and angry. Daniel could feel the danger growing, yet his steps were steady. The girl walked beside him, her thin legs trembling. She looked around quickly, afraid of punishment, afraid that at any moment someone would strike her down. When Daniel stopped in the narrow corridor, she froze too, waiting for an order. He turned to her. His voice was calm, gentle. "You are safe now." She stared at him, blinking, but said nothing. Her lips parted slightly, then closed again. It was clear she had not spoken freely for a long time. Daniel lowered his voice. "You don't have to bow. Stand tall," slowly, with hesitation. She lifted her head. Her glowing blue eyes met his for the first time. They were filled with fear, but also with a small spark. A question she did not dare to ask. Daniel unclipped a small piece of dried rations from his belt and handed it to her. She looked at the food, unsure if it was a trick, when she did not. "Take it." He placed it gently in her hand. "Eat." Her thin fingers closed around it. She lifted it to her mouth, biting carefully. When the taste reached her tongue, her eyes widened. It was not bitter like the food she was used to. It was simple, dry, but it was real. She ate quickly, as if afraid it would be taken away. For the first time, Daniel saw a flicker of life in her face as they walked deeper into the station. Daniel spoke again. "What is your name?" The girl froze. Her body stiffened, as though the question itself was dangerous. She shook her head slightly, her lips pressed tight. "You can tell me," Daniel said softly. "No one will punish you." Her voice, when it finally came, was almost a whisper, broken and weak. "Lyra." Daniel repeated it gently. "Lyra." She looked at him with surprise, as if hearing her own name spoken without anger was something strange, something new. Her eyes shimmered faintly in the dim light of the corridor. They reached the small quarters assigned to Daniel. The door slid open with a hiss, and he guided her inside. The room was simple: a bunk bed, a table, and metal walls humming with power. But to Lyra, it was like another world. She stood near the door, her arms close to her chest, her eyes darting around as if searching for hidden traps. Daniel set his weapon on the table and sat down on the lower bunk. "You can sit too," he said. Carefully, she stepped forward and sat on the edge of the bunk, keeping her distance. Her posture was tense, like a bird ready to fly at the first sign of danger. He spoke again, slowly. "Do you know why they gave you to me?" Her voice trembled. To break you, to test you. They wanted to see if you were like them." Daniel nodded. "And what do you think?" Her glowing eyes met his. "You are not like them." The next hours passed quietly. Lyra sat in silence, her body slowly relaxing. Daniel gave her water and another small meal. She ate with quick hands, but this time her eyes lifted toward him. Not only to the floor when he spoke, she listened. When she whispered answers, his heart grew heavy. She told him little pieces of her life. She had been born into chains. Her people had been conquered long ago, their children taken as property. She had never known freedom. She did not even know what freedom truly meant. "Then I will show you," Daniel said firmly. Her eyes widened again. No one had ever spoken such words to her. That night, as the lights dimmed, Daniel lay on the lower bunk. Lyra sat curled up on the top, too afraid to sleep. She listened to the steady sound of his breathing. There was no anger, no violence. Only calm. Hours later, when her eyes finally closed, she whispered softly into the dark, almost too quiet for him to hear. "Thank you." The next morning, Daniel woke early. When he turned his head, he saw Lyra sitting near the table, holding a piece of scrap metal she had found. She was scratching marks into its small lines and circles. "What are you drawing?" Daniel asked. She looked startled, hiding it behind her hands. But then, with slow courage, she showed him. The lines were simple, but they formed an image, a star, a world, her world. "This is home," she whispered. Daniel studied the marks carefully. He saw pain in her eyes, but also something else. Hope. He placed his hand gently on the table. 1 day, Lyra, you will see your home again, not as a slave, but as yourself. Her lips parted. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him, and for the first time in her life, she spoke words without fear, words she had never been allowed to say before. "I want to be free." In the shadows beyond their room, unseen by both of them, a small mechanical eye blinked red. A spy drone hovered in silence, watching. The alien leader's voice crackled through hidden speakers. "Let him play his game," the leader whispered coldly. "Mercy will destroy him in the end." But inside that small room, far from the leader's cruelty, a broken girl had spoken her first true words of freedom, and Daniel had promised she would never return to chains. The alien station was a city of steel and shadows. Long corridors stretched like endless tunnels, filled with the hum of engines and the hiss of air vents. To most who lived there, it was a prison of power, ruled by the alien leader's iron hand. But now, something small and dangerous had begun to stir a whisper. Daniel and Lyra walked together through one of the narrow passages. She stayed close to him, her glowing eyes watching every movement around them. Aliens passed by, some staring with curiosity, others with open hatred. None dared to speak aloud, but Daniel could feel their whispers behind him. "They laugh at you," Lyra said quietly, her voice almost a breath. Daniel glanced at her. "Let them laugh. They say you are weak." Her hands tightened around the strap of cloth she still wore like chains. "They wait for you to fail." Daniel's eyes grew firm. "Then they will keep waiting." That night, in their quarters, Lyra sat on the floor, tracing shapes on the cold metal with her finger. She drew stars, lines, and a circle that looked like a world. Daniel sat nearby, cleaning his weapon. His voice broke the silence. "Tell me about your people." She hesitated. Her lips trembled as if the words were dangerous. But then, slowly, she spoke. "We lived on a green world. The skies were wide, the seas endless. Children played in light, not darkness. But then, they came." Her voice cracked. "They burned our homes. They took us. They said we belonged to them." Daniel listened, his jaw tight. He had seen war. He had seen cruelty. But hearing it through her soft voice cut deeper than any blade. "You don't belong to them," he said firmly. "Not anymore." She lifted her eyes, and for the first time, Daniel saw something inside them. Not just fear, but fire. The next day, whispers spread across the station. Some aliens spoke of the human who broke chains. Some laughed at him, calling him foolish. But others, quiet ones, began to wonder. In the dim corners of the market, Daniel noticed it. Eyes following him, not with hatred, but with something else, curiosity. Lyra noticed too. "They talk," she whispered. "What do they say?" Daniel asked. "They say, if a human can free one, maybe others can be free too." Her voice shook as if the words themselves were forbidden. Daniel felt the weight of her words. He had not come to this place to start a rebellion. He only wanted to save one life. But freedom was a seed, and now that seed had begun to grow. Later, while moving through the crowded hangar, a shadow slipped close. A small, thin alien with dark skin and golden markings pressed a hand against Daniel's arm. His voice was low, urgent. "Human," he whispered, "you shame the leader. You risk your life." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "And you?" The alien glanced around, fear in his eyes. I want what you want. I want chains broken." Before Daniel could answer, guards appeared, their glowing weapons raised. The thin alien vanished into the crowd like smoke. One guard sneered, "The leader wants to see you." In the great hall once more, Daniel stood before the alien leader. Lyra stood behind him, her head low. The warriors around them watched with hungry eyes. The leader's voice was smooth, dangerous, human. "You think kindness will save you, but whispers spread. Slaves grow restless. Do you know what happens when they believe in freedom?" Daniel's gaze was steady. "They fight for it." The leader's smile was sharp. "Yes. And they die for it." He stepped closer, his shadow falling over Daniel. "You are not saving her. You are killing her. Chains keep order. Chains keep peace. Without them, there is only fire." Daniel's voice was calm but unshaken. "Better fire than chains." Gasps rippled through the hall. The warriors shifted uneasily. Lyra's hand tightened against her chest, her heart racing. The leader's eyes burned. "Be careful, human. Mercy can be more dangerous than cruelty." That night, in their quarters, Lyra sat with her back against the wall, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her voice was soft, trembling. "They will kill you," she whispered, "and me too. You should let me go. If I run, maybe they will leave. You." Daniel shook his head. "No, I promised you freedom. I will not break that promise." Her eyes glistened with tears, but there was something else in them, now something new. Not just fear, not just hope, something stronger. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you care?" Daniel's voice was quiet, but every word carried weight. "Because you are alive, because no one deserves chains." Lyra's lips trembled. She wanted to speak, but no words came. Instead, she pressed her forehead against her knees, and for the first time, she allowed herself to cry not in pain, but in release. Unseen by them, in the depths of the station, the whispers grew louder. Slaves in hidden corners spoke softly of a human who broke chains. Some dared to imagine freedom. Some dared to dream. And in the alien leader's private chamber, his voice was cold as stone. "If rebellion comes," he said to his council, "the human will be the spark. Then we will crush them all, and the galaxy will learn again that mercy is weakness." But in a small room far from the leader's throne, Daniel sat with Lyra, unaware that their story was no longer theirs alone. The whispers of rebellion had begun. The station was never quiet. Even in the deepest hours of night, metal groaned and machines hummed like restless beasts. But in Daniel's small quarters, silence hung heavy. Lyra sat on the floor, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her eyes followed every sound outside the door. Fear lived inside her like a shadow that never left. The chain on her ankle clinked. Softly when she moved, it was thin, more a symbol than a cage, but still it held her. Daniel sat across from her, his weapon on the table. His eyes kept drifting to the chain. He hated it, not because it trapped her body, but because it reminded her that she was never free. At last he stood. He crossed the small room, knelt, and studied the lock. Lyra stiffened. Her voice was small, trembling. "What are you doing?" "Ending this," Daniel said. Her glowing eyes widened. "You cannot." "If they see, they already see," Daniel interrupted, his tone steady. "They watch everything I do. But this they will not control." He took a small tool from his belt and pressed it into the lock. The metal resisted, strong and stubborn. Sparks hissed as he forced it. Then, with a snap, the chain broke. The sound was small, almost nothing in the vast station. But to Lyra, it was thunder. She stared at the broken piece lying on the floor. Her hands touched her ankle as if to be sure. No chain, no lock. For the first time in her life, nothing held her down. Tears welled in her glowing eyes. She whispered one word, shaky and full of disbelief. Free, Daniel nodded. Free. That night, she did not sleep on the floor. She lay on the bunk, her hands pressed to her chest, her heart racing. Freedom was strange. Heavy, she did not know what to do with it. Daniel sat awake, his eyes fixed on the dim lights of the ceiling. He knew what would come. The leader would not stay silent. Mercy was a fire, and fire spread. The next day, when they walked through the station, something had changed. Lyra no longer bowed her head. Her steps were unsteady, her body unsure, but she walked beside Daniel, not behind him. The aliens noticed. Some sneered, their voices sharp with anger. Others turned their faces away, but a few watched with quiet eyes. And Daniel saw at the spark of questions dot in the crowded market. A young alien boy stared at Lyra. His wrists were scarred with chains. His lips parted, and he whispered, "How?" Lyra froze. No one had ever asked her that before. For a long moment, she could not answer. Then, with shaking courage, she said softly, "He broke them." The boy's eyes lit with a dangerous light. Hope dot back in their quarters, Lyra sat at the table, tracing her star. Drawings again. But this time her lines were stronger. She drew not only her world, but also shapes of peoples, Maul, standing tall, with no chains. Daniel watched quietly. "You're different," he said. Her lips curved, almost a smile. "I feel lighter, like I can breathe." Then her voice darkened. "But they will not allow it. They can't stop what's already begun," Daniel said. She lowered her gaze. "You risk too much. And so do you," he answered softly. Their eyes met, and for the first time, she held his gaze without fear. But shadows moved beyond their walls. The alien leader had spies everywhere. In a dark chamber, he spoke to his warriors. "The human weakens us," he said, his voice sharp as a blade. "He breaks order. Others whisper of freedom. This cannot continue." One warrior hissed, "Shall we kill the girl?" The leader raised a hand. His cruel smile returned. "No, not yet. We will let them believe in freedom. We will let them taste it. And when hope rises," his eyes glowed cold, "we will crush it before their eyes." That evening, Lyra stood by the narrow window of the station, looking out at the stars. She had never noticed how beautiful they were, scattered like silver dust across the black. Daniel came to stand beside her. "Do you ever wonder what it feels like?" he asked. She tilted her head. "To live without fear." Her lips parted. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she whispered, "Yes." "Every day," Daniel nodded. "Then hold on to that. Because one day, you will." Her eyes shone, not only from their glow, but from something new inside her strength. But in the silence of the night, a warning came. The thin alien with golden markings appeared again, slipping through shadows into Daniel's quarters. His voice was quick, urgent. "They are watching you. They plan to make an example of you both. Be ready." Then he vanished as suddenly as he had come. Daniel looked at Lyra. She stood with her fists clenched, her body trembling, but her voice steady. "Then let them come," she said. For the first time, Daniel saw not just fear in her, but defiance, and he knew the chains were not only broken from her body, they were breaking from her soul. The alien station felt different now. The air was heavier, the corridors quieter. Daniel could feel eyes on him wherever he walked. Not only from the guards, but from other slaves, workers, and even warriors. Some looked with anger, some looked with fear, and some looked with something far more dangerous. Hope. Lyra stayed close to him. She no longer kept her head bowed low. She walked beside him, her glowing eyes scanning the hall. But Daniel noticed the trembling in her hands. Freedom had given her courage, but it had also painted a target on her back. They had just returned from the market when the door to their quarters slid open. Waiting inside was a group of armored guards. Their weapons glowed faintly, humming with deadly energy. The leader of the guards sneered, "Human, the master demands your presence." Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced at Lyra. "Stay here." But Lyra shook her head quickly, fear in her eyes. "No, they will take you. They will kill you." Daniel's voice was calm. "I'll come back." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. He squeezed her hand once, then followed the guards into the cold hall. The great chamber was darker than before. Torches burned along the walls, casting sharp shadows. The alien leader sat on his high seat, his gray skin glowing faintly in the firelight. His golden armor reflected the flames, making him look like a statue carved of stone and fire. He smiled as Daniel was shoved to his knees. "Human," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "Do you know what your kindness has done?" Daniel's eyes lifted, steady. It saved her life. The leader's smile grew wider, crueler. "No, it poisoned the others. They whisper now. They question their chains. You have given them hope. And hope," he leaned forward, his voice sharp, "is the most dangerous weapon of all." Around the hall, warriors hissed and snarled. The leader stood, his heavy steps echoing. He circled Daniel like a predator. "You could have taken the gift. You could have enjoyed the power. Instead, you chose weakness. Mercy?" His voice thundered. "Mercy has a price." Daniel spoke calmly, each word like stone. "Then I'll pay it." The leader stopped in front of him. For a moment, the hall was silent. Then he raised his hand. "Bring her." The doors opened. Guards dragged Lyra into the hall. Her glowing eyes widened when she saw Daniel on his knees. She struggled, but the guards held her tight. "No," she cried, her voice sharp with terror. "Don't hurt him." The leader looked down at Daniel, his cruel smile returning. "This is your price. The girl will suffer for your mercy." Daniel's fists clenched, but he did not lower his eyes. "Touch her, and you will regret it." The warriors laughed, their voices echoing. To them, Daniel's words were foolish. One human against a hall of soldiers. Yet his voice did not shake. Lyra fought against the guards, tears streaming down her face. "Please, please stop." The leader reached down, gripping her chin with his cold hand. "See, human. This is what your kindness brings. Pain, fear. If you had accepted her chains, she would not suffer. Know enough." Daniel's voice cut through the hall like a blade. He rose to his feet even as guards shoved him down again. His eyes burned with fury. "She suffers because of you. Because you fear freedom." The leader's eyes narrowed. "Careful, human. You walk a path that leads only to death." Daniel's voice was steady. "Better death with honor than life with chains." The hall fell silent. Even the laughter stopped. The leader stared at him, his smile gone. Finally, the leader raised his hand. The guards released Lyra, shoving her to the ground beside Daniel. She crawled to him, clutching his arm. Her body shook, but her voice was strong. "They can't break you," she whispered. "Don't let them." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. He looked back at the leader. "You can punish us. You can threaten us. But you can't stop what's already begun. Others will rise. They already whisper. They already dream. You can't kill hope." The leader's eyes blazed with fury, but his smile returned a smile full of danger. "Then let the fire burn. When it consumes you, the galaxy will see what becomes of fools who believe in mercy." He turned sharply. "Take them away. Let them wait for their punishment." Tomorrow, the station will watch them suffer. Back in their quarters, Lyra clung to Daniel, her body trembling. "They will kill us," she whispered. "I don't want you to die." Daniel's hand rested gently on her back. His voice was steady. "Everyone dies, but not everyone lives free. You are free now, Lyra. Whatever comes, they can't take." "That from you?" She looked up at him, her glowing eyes wet with tears. "You gave me freedom, but at the cost of your life." Daniel shook his head. "No, at the cost of theirs. Because when they try to kill us, they will show everyone what they really are." And then he paused, his voice low. "The chains will break for more than just you." Lyra's breath caught. For the first time, she understood. His kindness was not only for her. It was for everyone who still lived in darkness. Her fear did not vanish. But something stronger rose in its place. Resolve, and in the silent night of the alien station, while guards watched their door, the whispers spread faster than ever. A human had defied the master. A slave girl had been freed. And tomorrow, when punishment came, the whole station would see. The alien station woke in unrest. The air vibrated with unease, as if the steel walls themselves sensed the storm that was coming. Whispers spread through the corridors, faster than fire. Everyone knew the human and the slave girl would be punished today. Daniel stood in his small quarters, hands resting on the table. Lyra sat near the door, her knees pulled close, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She had not slept, neither had he. "Will they kill us?" she asked softly. Daniel looked at her. His voice was calm, steady, though his heart carried the weight of truth. "Maybe, but not before everyone sees who they are." She pressed her lips together, her hands trembling. But then she nodded. "Then we fight." The words surprised, even her. Once she had known only fear. Now, in the face of death, she chose defiance. When the guards came, the corridor was already full of eyes. Slaves, workers, and even warriors lined the path. They watched as Daniel and Lyra were forced forward, chains on their wrists. But something in the air was different. The watchers were silent, not with fear, but with anticipation. The great chamber was filled with firelight. The alien leader sat on his high seat, a cruel smile across his stone-gray face. His voice thundered. "Today, the human learns that mercy is weakness. Today, hope dies." The warriors roared, their weapons raised. But among the crowd, not all voices joined. Some stayed silent. Some clenched their fists. Some whispered Daniel was pushed to his knees, Lyra beside him. The leader raised his hand. Execution. The guards stepped forward, their blades glowing, and then it happened. A cry rang out from the crowd, not of fear, of defiance. "No more chains." Another voice followed. "No more slaves." In an instant, the hall erupted. Slaves surged forward, grabbing tools, weapons, even broken chains as weapons. Warriors turned, startled. The fire of rebellion had begun. Daniel broke his chains with one sharp pull, the metal snapping under his strength. He grabbed a fallen guard's weapon and swung, sparks flying as steel clashed. "Lyra, stay behind me," he shouted. But Lyra did not cower. She grabbed a broken spear from the ground and held it with trembling hands. For the first time in her life, she raised a weapon not to obey, but to fight. The chamber became chaos. Shouts, screams, the crash of metal against metal. Smoke rose as fires lit the banners of the hall. The alien leader's voice roared above. It all crushed them, kill the human. But the slaves did not fall back. They fought with desperation, with fury born of years in chains. And Daniel stood at their front, his strike swift, his voice strong. Hold the line. Freedom is worth the fight. At his side, Lyra swung her spear clumsily but with heart. She struck down a guard who lunged at Daniel's back. Her glowing eyes widened at what she had done, but she did not stop. Her voice, once quiet, now rang out, "No more chains." Others took up her cry, "No more chains." The chamber shook with the sound. Daniel fought like a storm, but even storms can be broken. The guards pressed harder, their weapons deadly, their numbers endless. He felt the burn of wounds across his arms, his strength fading. Lyra saw him stumble. Her chest tightened. Fear gripped Herb, then she remembered his words. Better death with honor than life with chains. She leaped forward, blocking a strike aimed at him. Her small body trembled under the force, but she did not fall. Daniel caught her as she staggered. Lyra. She looked up at him, her face pale, but her eyes blazing. "I am not afraid anymore." The battle turned the chamber into ruin. Fires burned high. Smoke curled toward the ceiling. Blood stained the steel floor. And then silence fell. The slaves had not won. Too many had fallen. Too many still fought, in chains. But they had not been broken. They stood, battered but unbowed, staring at the leader with eyes that no longer held only fear. The leader's face twisted with rage. "You see," he shouted, "this is what your mercy brings. Fire, death, chaos. You have doomed them all." Daniel, breathing hard, stood tall despite his wounds. His voice was hoarse but strong. "No, you doomed them the moment you put chains on them. Today, they saw the truth. Today, they learned they can fight." The leader's eyes burned with hate. He raised his weapon, pointing it at Daniel. "Then, I will end you myself." The crowd gasped as the leader stepped down from his throne, his armor shining in the firelight. The battle was not over. It was about to reach its peak. Lyra's hand tightened on her broken spear. She stepped closer to Daniel, her voice steady. "We fight together." Daniel looked at her, pride in his eyes. Together, the chamber, filled with fire and smoke, held its breath. The final battle had begun. The great chamber burned. Flames climbed the walls, smoke swirled in the air, and broken weapons lay scattered across the floor. The cries of battle had faded to silence. Only two figures stood at the center: Daniel, the human soldier, and the alien leader in his golden armor. Around them, the crowd of slaves and warriors watched with wide eyes. Some bled from wounds. Others clutched broken chains as weapons. Hope and fear mixed in their faces. They knew this final fight would decide everything. The leader's voice was sharp as steel. "You think kindness makes you strong, human? No, it makes you weak. Today, your mercy dies with you." Daniel's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. His armor was cracked, blood marked his arms, but his eyes were steady. He raised his weapon and answered, "Kindness doesn't die. It lives in every heart that dares to be free." The leader struck first, his blade glowing with energy. Sparks flew as Daniel blocked, the force shaking his arms. The alien was strong, his blows heavy and merciless. Each strike rang through the chamber like thunder, but Daniel held firm. He moved with skill, turning aside the deadly swings, answering with his own sharp strikes. The clash was brutal, a storm of steel and fire at the edge of the fight. Lyra gripped her broken spear. Her glowing eyes followed every movement, her heart pounding. Fear clawed at her chest, but she did not run. She whispered under her breath, "Fight, Daniel. Don't fall." The leader pressed harder, his rage fueling his strength. He drove Daniel back, step by step, until the human's back hit the scorched wall. The alien raised his weapon high. ready for the killing blow. But in that moment, a cry rose from the crowd. No more chains. Another voice shouted, "No more slaves." The hall shook as dozens of voices joined. The chant spread louder and louder, echoing through the chamber. No more chains. No more chains. The leader hesitated for only a breath, but it was enough. Daniel surged forward, slamming his shoulder into the alien's chest. The leader stumbled, his weapon crashing to the floor. Daniel's blade came to the alien's throat. The crowd gasped for a long moment. Silence reigned. Daniel stood over the leader, his weapon steady. One strike could end it. The crowd waited. The slaves hoped. The warriors watched in disbelief. The leader snarled, "Do it, human. Kill me. Show them that mercy is a lie. Show them you are no different than me." Daniel's hand trembled. He could end the monster who had chained so many. He could strike and end the fear. But he remembered why he had come this far, for vengeance, but for freedom. Not to show cruelty, but to show kindness. Slowly, Daniel lowered his weapon. His voice rang clear across the chamber. "No, killing you won't. Free them, mercy will." Gasps spread through the hall. The leader's eyes widened in shock. The slaves stared, their hearts pounding. They had never seen such power, not the power to kill, but the power to forgive. Daniel turned, his voice rising above the smoke. "You are all free. From this day, no chains will hold you. Stand not as slaves, but as people." The crowd erupted. Slaves fell to their knees, tears streaming. Warriors lowered their weapons, some in shame, others in awe. The chant rose again, not in whispers, but in thunder. Freedom, freedom, freedom. Lyra stepped forward, her glowing eyes filled with tears. She looked at Daniel, her voice trembling. "You could have killed him, but you didn't." Daniel met her gaze. Because true freedom isn't built on death. It's built on mercy. Her lips curved into a smile, fragile but real. For the first time, she stood tall, not as property, not as a shadow, but as herself. The alien leader fell to his knees, defeated not by steel, but by compassion. He looked around at the faces of those he had once ruled. No longer did they bow. No longer did they fear. He had lost not his life, but his power. Daniel turned to the crowd one last time. "Remember this day. You are free, not because of me, but because you chose to believe. Hold on to that. Protect it. Pass it on. Freedom lives only if you keep it alive." Later, in the quiet aftermath, Daniel and Lyra walked through the ruined halls. Smoke still curled through the air, but the sound of laughter and hope echoed faintly from the freed slaves. Lyra looked at him, her steps lighter than ever before. "I was given to you as a slave," she said softly. "But you gave me back my life." Daniel smiled faintly. "Not just yours, Lyra, all of theirs, too." She stopped, her glowing eyes lifting to the stars beyond the window. "Then maybe one day I will go home, and I will tell them that a human showed me what freedom truly means." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder. "And when you do, they will rise too." As they stood together, the stars beyond seemed brighter than before. A soldier who chose kindness, a girl who found her voice, and a station that had learned the power of mercy. A story had begun with chains, but it ended with freedom, because in the end, kindness had changed a world.